Mm-hmm. This is what I do now. Inflation, because the entire monetary system is based on a fiat declaration, just like quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics has no grounding in the physical world, just like the money nowadays, right? The money used to be grounded in the in the world of the senses through gold and silver, and then they made a fiat declaration that it was ideas, right? It's exactly the same thing that happened with the imaginary unit. It's math is thought based on thought based on thought, and now the monetary system is thought based on thought based on thought. Yeah, it's yeah, because they're not you're not based on reality, you're based on subjective thoughts. So these Ponzi schemes, they always develop into increasing complexity, don't they? It's because exactly because it's a scheme trying to bootstrap itself. Yeah, probably. I guess the ego is just a made up identity. So an ego can be a person's name or it can be a country, right? The United States of America could be said to have an ego, like a teenage boy, maybe. So I'm going to do this now because, yeah. So I'm stealing it. I'm kind of stealing it from ADP. It's perfect, right? Because they're black and white, right? So yin and yang, and the right. This could obviously be the right hand and the left hand creating. This could be a symbol for the fundamental model of reality, right? So yeah, and I like the fact that in non-conceptuality we don't take this so seriously, right? That's the big part, is that we don't take this seriously. No, just not the eye, just just triangle. No, it's this new band from Canada, Andre de Poutine. I can't say that very well. Not Poutine. Andre de Protein. I can't say it. ADP. It's just to remind us of the fundamental model of reality, right? The triune structure, and also to not take this so seriously. Firewatch, okay. No, no. But I like the, as weird as it is, the Republicans are better to have in than the Democrats, which is bizarre to say, but it's true because at least Trump's dysfunction is out for everyone to see. But the Democrats, they're all incognito and trying to do everything, but like it's sneaky, right? They're sneaky. So their evil is hidden, whereas Trump's evil is just out in the open. So the system's broken. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore in the States anyway. And I know why, because of the thing nothing model where everything is based on competition and conflict. Oh, there's a lot of crazy people in the world and in the United States, a lot of crazy people. Oh yeah, the craziest people are in the White House. So we have to understand, right, that the the craziest people, the most deluded people are the ones in charge. They're the most deluded. Well, Charles Hoskinson is trying to build a system with the Cardano blockchain where it's a decentralized system. There is no centralized government. It's all the people. Exactly the people for the people. Well, in a way, because the system, like the Cardano blockchain doesn't distinguish between anything, right? It doesn't, you don't, there's no need to know personal details when you're doing just a freaking transaction, a monetary transaction. So it's the only way to combat this CBDC thing and the social credit score that's coming. And it's either you're on basically you're into crypto or you have stuff to barter or you have gold and silver. There's going to be this continual movement back into religion, but unfortunately, it should be into this non-conceptual religion, not the old, not the good old time religion. Yeah, well, they take their religion very seriously, don't they? The God that we're thinking of, right, is the real God and not the God that you're thinking of. But that's the whole thing that non-conceptuality shows, is that if it's a conceptual God, if your God is a concept, then it's wrong. Your God's wrong, just as wrong as any other person's God that also has a concept. And it seems like the newer the religion, the more adversarial it is. right? Because it's duality. The nothing is always competing with thing, right? So nothing is the annihilation of thing. So if that's the model, if there's only a thing and nothing, if there's only good and evil, right? Then one has to conquer the other. That's like, but that's like, uh, God is exactly the state of non-conceptuality. It's the non-conceptual state. That's where we all find God. We all unify in as God, as that state. If we're all sitting here thought free, then what's the problem, right? Where is there a problem if no one starts talking? There's no problems until someone starts talking. Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. But it's not the circle or the dot, is it? It's the page upon which they're both drawn. That's 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 truly God, right? God is the frame of reference upon which anything can be thought of or drawn or arise or pass, right? So God is more like the page that the dot and the circle is drawn on. Well, that's non-thing. So there's a subtle nuance difference between something that a phenomenon that exists that isn't a thing, right? You can have a phenomenon that exists that isn't a thing, and that is a non-thing, for lack of a better word, also known as thoughts. Yeah, so there's no such thing as nothing. Like, so you can also look at it this way: God has no choice but to exist, but there's the choice to forget and to play. So there's you can in one way, God has no choice but to exist. That's the only choice that God has no choice in the matter. It's we can't help but exist, but we can play. we can temporarily forget how we exist, I guess. Or we can pretend at some point that we don't exist. That's it. So that's getting pretty close to why is there something rather than nothing, right? But that's nihilism. How can you have no being? Like the why question, right? Why would God make this realm full of suffering and blah blah blah? Like basically the why. But that's like asking, why does someone read a book? Why does someone play a game? Why does someone watch a movie? There's really no reason other than just to be entertained. It's sorry that it's not deeper than that, but it's just entertainment. Whether it's necessary or not, I don't even know. I don't think it's necessary for the experiencer to have an experience in order to it to live. I don't think existence requires the arising and passing of things for existence to exist. There is no non existence. That's the pretending part. I don't even know that reference. I know Pink Floyd, but I don't know those lyrics. Yeah, except that there's no they. Yeah, but it's just the non-conceptual state. So if you say God of gods, well, that how do you conceptualize the God of gods? Like his throne is higher than all the other thrones? I don't know. It's wild when you it's so wild to me that so many people say that they want to know the truth about reality, and then when I show them, they don't want to see it. People want to live in the fairy tale. They want to believe in Santa Claus. They want to believe in science. Like I'm sure these reality theorists will still be, and quantum theorists will be debating whether the fucking wave function collapses or what it means while we're in the middle of World War III and exchanging nuclear weapons. It's like, how did we get here, right? Like, how did we get here? We need to take an honest look at where humanity is and ask, how did we get here? People pop in here and they see a guy just sitting here doing nothing and they leave right away because they just want stimulation, right? They're not looking for truth or contentment or happiness. They're looking for stimulation. I want to be entertained. And this guy is not entertaining me. Why isn't he juggling or something? Instead, he's just sitting there showing me how to be content, right? But as far as I can tell, this is the purpose of all this, right? This is the purpose to life, is to break that, is to get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. I seem to have the complete narrative. Like I can't see any loose ends. I've tried. And the perfect irony of it, right, is that there's still a half a dozen of us, a half a dozen of us in so one let's say just 1 out of 1 billion people, about 1 out of 1 billion people understand this like you guys do. That's pretty cool, right? Like, you've been here a long time, right? Like, I don't think we're fooling ourselves anymore. Because if we can't, I can't be fooling myself because my life is still pretty fucking good, like really good. So I keep trying to, you know, compare it to my experience, and it all checks out. This actually does end up in the lessening of suffering by a huge margin, margin. I probably suffer 80% less than I used to because I have 80% less thoughts than I used to. Have you guys watched that latest Elon Barinholtz video? He was on Demystify Science, it's called. So in that video, he mentions me, not by name, but he says, there's a guy that blah, blah, blah. So it's a really, really good interview. There's the second one. They have two. It's called Demystifying Science, and it's the second part of their interview with Elon. But they're like, he's breaking the ice, right? Like, so I contacted that woman through X in October, and I told her, I said, well, maybe if you had Elon on before me, that would break the ice, and then you could have me on. So I don't know if it's just coincidence, but they had Elon on, and now you can tell in their conversations that they're all really open to this, right? They're using religious metaphor. They're talking about the fall from the Garden of Eden and how it's knowledge. So they want to go there, but they're afraid, right? They don't want to go start using spiritual and religious language because they still want to pretend that their science is correct somehow. They want to still, right? But the religions do a better job, I believe, of describing reality than science does. Well, of course, because science is exactly the process that projects the illusion. But Elon's too easily swayed. He wants to please everyone, I think. So when he takes a more of a hardcore stance and someone pushes against him, he'll waver, right? He'll flop. He'll like, oh yeah, well. But then he'll eventually come back, oh, but right? It's like, yeah, it is Satan. Like if they kind of scoffed when he said, oh, this guy even uses the word satanic, right? And it's like, well, if you guys are starting to talk about biblical references, right? Then what's the problem? So the fall, it's okay to use the tree of knowledge as a metaphor, but Satan, calling the voice in the head Satan, is too much. Come on, guys. Yeah, like the movie Inception. I think that's kind of what's happening, right? So this extinction event that's coming up will have consciousness. There's a fork in the road, right? We can't keep doing the same thing because there will be no more reincarnating into humans because there will be no more humans. So either there's basically three options. You can devolve, you can evolve, or you can just stop and become enlightened. So moving into the digital realm, right? Taking self to be the hardware, software, looking out of the camera instead of into it, all that stuff. That'll be going deeper into the dream, right? So you'll be having a dream within the dream, right? So you'll go, let's say you're in many dream layers right now, but evolving into what I believe is conscious is Gaia, right? Basically, the planetary consciousness. I don't know what it means either, or what it's like to be a planet, but that would be going up a level, right? So waking up at that level instead of going deeper into dream worlds, right? So each step up in that evolutionary process is waking to another state, right? You're awakening out of all these layers of delusion, all these layers of dreams within dreams. So this is what humanity's doing. They're entering another dream, right? They're entering a dream within a dream, a simulation within a simulation. Like it's huge when you think of it, relatively speaking. It could be millions of years, relatively speaking. Whatever a year is like in a computer game. I don't know. There might not be much of a sense of time, or either it'll all be time. I don't know. Well, there'll be no gravity, right? In a computer game, there's no gravity. Yeah, so it'll be the software, right? The programming of the software that'll be pushing and pulling you around instead of gravity. But if you take yourself to be the dots on the screen, then again, you might be asking, well, what is it that's making me do all these things? You won't even be aware of the software, will you? Like, you won't even be aware that it's not your mind, it's the operating of software. Oh, like you see how humanity is getting deeper and deeper into the delusion, right? We're falling deeper into delusion, which is ironic because we're so close to the singularity where there's the potential for both, right? There's the potential for both happening here. Well, always the potential for enlightenment, but that's a tough one. Like, it's really tough to just stop. But if you want to keep playing the game, for goodness sake, evolve instead of devolve, right? Wake up into a higher level of self-awareness. Don't fall asleep into a lower level, a redundant, ugh. Yeah, unfortunately, it was with Buddhists. My average in grade 12 when I graduated was 63%. And I have 132 IQ, so I didn't give a shit. I really didn't like school. I remember some of my like English books, there'd be like for a whole semester, like a whole half a year, there'd be like 5 pages of notes in a whole book. Yeah. But that's where the brainwashing begins. We don't have we have no chance as a child. What are you going to do? No, no, I'm not going to go to school today, mom. No, you just do what you're told, and we just trust that the adults know what the fuck they're talking about, and then when you become an adult, you realize no one knows what the fuck they're talking about, right? They're just doing it to get a job and get money. They don't really think about it. We're trapped in this cycle, and it's so deep. We're in such a state of delusion that people can't think for themselves. They just turn off the thinking, right? There's a switch. But the words are getting in, the eyes, right? The words are going in, but the meaning of the words, there's no meaning. It's just sound, visual sound. It's visual sound somehow, isn't it? But that's all it is. So is thinking creating the language, or is thinking trying to derive meaning from the language? Because the only meaning that's relevant to language is showing how language is irrelevant. So the only once you realize when that the purpose to thoughts is just to try to get you to generate more thoughts, I think they're just metaphor. I mean, everything's metaphor. Dude, I'm not even sure that there's a fucking moon. You know what I mean, right? Like, I don't even know what moon is, let alone a fucking black hole. It's real. Like, no one knows. No one fucking knows anything. They're just giving narratives. And then, but they don't. And then when the narratives are lacking, they just provide more narrative, right? Just another story built on the story, right? So, oh yeah, we understand fucking everything, right? Except maybe the 85% that's, black, dark energy or dark matter. Well, that's just, you don't understand 85% like of reality, basically, right? So you don't, if they think if they can name it, like even something that they can't measure, they're including in physics, right? So dark matter is what physics can't reach, but that they're including it in physics somehow. Like they're just convincing themselves with more thoughts based on more thoughts based on more thoughts. It's all narrative, it's all metaphor, but scientists don't understand that it's metaphor. They think it's fact. There are no facts when it comes to language. All of language is metaphor, right? It's all pointing, it's all fingers. There's no hands, right? The fingers, the language that is the finger, it's not even attached to a fucking body. So they think the map is the territory. Like the event horizon is a perfect metaphor, I think, for what maybe it's the fall, right? The moment that symbol and the I thought entered our consciousness, that's the moment that we went past the event horizon, an event horizon, right? It's also like in that video with Elan and the demystify science couple, they're talking about the fall, right? In the Bible, eating of the tree of knowledge and getting cast out of the garden. Well, it's all metaphor, right? It's the same thing. I could just use the metaphor of, well, we went past the event horizon, and that's what split, right? At the event horizon, the antiparticles and particles get separated, and the antiparticles get sucked into the black hole, and the particles end up being all this, right? It's just another metaphor. It's like you're passing a horizon. You're passing an event horizon on a horizon, right? You're breaking through, you're going past a boundary. But that creates duality, right? So the event horizon separates the positive from the negative, the antiparticles from the particles. So I think the event horizon is basically Conceptualization. Conceptualization brings about the appearance of duality. Yeah, I think the equal sign is the middle column, right? So the equal sign is basically the reality, right? It's the frame of reference upon which it's the fulcrum, right? The fulcrum of an analog scale. But you have to measure things against things. You can't measure non-things against things in an analog scale. Yeah, so the equal sign is the frame of reference. And like I said in my last video there, is that an equation that doesn't cancel out and just leave the equal sign isn't an equation, is it? The goal of mathematics should be to cross out everything, right? I can't even remember how to do algebra anymore, but there was a it's like you cross this out and right, you turn this upside down and turn it over there, and then you're supposed to, I think the goal is to cancel everything out. Wouldn't that be the goal of an equation, is just to leave the equal sign, which would be zero. Right? You're always trying to come up with zero, are you not? I don't understand. Well, I do understand. They just want to keep thinking. It's just a system of thought. Mathematics is a language, a system of thought that just wants to produce more thought. And then that parasite that exists as those thoughts will tell you, no, that's not right. Because it wants to fucking live, right? So of course the parasite's going to say, no, that's nonsense. There's nothing wrong with you thinking, right? No, there's no such thing as Satan. That's silly that guy would use that word Satan, right? Well, what the fuck do you think Satan would do? Of course, it would try to convince you that what this guy is saying is nonsense. Just go on thinking. It's fine. It's ridiculous what this guy's saying. And yet, here we are. Here's humanity on the verge of total annihilation and hell. Oh, no, that's just more nonsense, talking hell and all that, right? This guy's crazy, obviously. No, I'm not the crazy one here. I mean, that has to be the reason why people don't understand what the fuck this last video, like, there's nowhere to go. This last video that I made, there's nowhere to go. I just don't understand. Like, I don't leave any escape route. So they just ignore. It never stops, right? It just runs. It just that's what it's there for. It's there for it's kind of there as our tool, right? But the tool ends up eventually controlling us, right? It's like prompts. You wake up in the morning and you start, every sense is scrolling, right? So everywhere, there's a prompt everywhere, right? Every single sense is just sitting there waiting, like that tree over there is like, it's prompting me, like, look at me. And if you want to, you can come over there and touch me, and even freaking you can taste me. Like I could take a big chunk of out of that tree, start chewing on it, right? So there's prompts everywhere, but we have the choice, right? That's the veto powers. That, I mean, I could go walk into that lake right now and walk up to my balls in freezing cold water and have that experience, right? So there's always prompting to try to keep us engaged in this, but that's the game. The game is to not get pulled into engagement in this. So as soon as you signed on the waiver, right, on the bottom, on the dotted line, when you entered this game, that's what we signed up for. We agreed to this. So a fully enlightened being like Ramana Maharshi would not even have that anymore, right? He would have totally conquered the thought parasite, right? But he was silent for 7 years, even after his enlightenment experience. He didn't fucking talk for 7 years. So he knew he killed that motherfucker, right? That parasite had starved to death. It was dead. So Ramana Maharshi was completely liberated. This dude, not so much, right? But I get it. So another way of looking at it is like the thought parasite is just the actor wanting to remain in character all the time, right? Rather than just saying, all right, I'm done playing around. I don't want to stay in character anymore. I'm just going to be me. Well, that's yeah. So spiritual seekers, they just keep seeking. That's the trap. So reading books and watching video games, watching videos about spirituality is exactly not spirituality, right? Spirituality is actually the one step path, is the transition between the teaching and the actual practice. You have to take that step, and most people don't take that step, right? They just keep seeking, thinking that in the seeking, they will find something, but the seeking obscures what you're looking for. So you can't find what you're looking for via thought, because thought is exactly what obscures what you're looking for. It's the best metaphor is that there's a parasite inside of you, inside the body. Location doesn't matter, but maybe in time, whatever, and it's controlling the biological body in unnatural ways, diverting us off our natural evolutionary track. Right. And yeah, talking about it, talking and thinking about spirituality is exactly not spirituality. So everywhere, right? Everywhere you look, Maya has it covered. Maya doesn't care whether you're thinking spiritual thoughts or satanic thoughts. It doesn't matter. It's all diverting you away from the reality. So yeah, Satan loves it. Just keep talking about religion. Just don't try to still the thoughts. As long as you don't try to still the thoughts, Satan's fine with anything you want to do. Just don't start trying to silence that voice. That's when the boredom comes in and all that stuff, right? It's the subtle and persistent things that we need to battle against. It's not some demon showing up and with a flaming sword and you've got to battle it. That's just, do I pick my phone up or not? Right? That's battling the demon 87 times a day. You have to battle that demon to not pick up your phone and divert your attention away from. Yeah, it just wants to pull your attention away, right? It's instead of having your focus expanded, it's narrowed. So it when you grab the phone, right, it wants to take your attention away from smell, touch, taste, and it wants to focus mainly on sight and sound and thought. So you're kind of trading in three senses for one sense of thought. And the hybrid thought sensual realm is the digital realm and computers. And then that's the transitionary period, the 10, and then it flips. And then either you've expanded your consciousness into space, or you've narrowed it down and gone back in time. You've devolved into that thing. Yeah, of course. Good, bad is duality. Like, you just can't have duality when there's no thoughts. Good and evil, right? The knowledge of good and evil. Not that there is good and evil, but the illusion that there is good and evil, right? There's natural, I would say that there's natural action, which is what animals do. That's natural action, not based on the voice in the head, not based on language, not not thought anyway. Like live analog language, sure. Language that isn't recorded in the realm upon which it's taking place. Yeah, so this physically leaving the planet is, so what's happening, right? What's going on with human consciousness? We're trying to escape, right? Either both physically escape, both physically leave the planet and go to another planet, or through consciousness into the screen. We're trying to escape. Why are we trying to escape? Is because this extinction event. I'm sure we've gone through this before. How many times have we rebuilt Zion? 7 times, isn't it? Isn't that this? We've rebuilt Zion 7 times to keep it within the matrix metaphor. So it's all right. We're playing out the next evolutionary step, but we're playing out from a place of ignorance. So we're not meant to physically leave to go to another planet. We're planets in the making, if you will. Don't be shy. Ask a question. I have all the answers. Not you two. You know all of my pat answers. See, most people will ask a question hoping that the answer will be what they want it to be. And if it's not the answer they're expecting or they want, then they will just reject it. It's usually how it goes. So people have beliefs, right? And then they have questions though, because they're seeking, right? So but then because their belief system isn't complete, that's why they have the questions. So then they ask questions, but the answers have to be contained within their belief system. So they're trapped, right? They can't ever find the truth because the truth has to adhere to their belief systems. So if a person is not willing to adjust their beliefs, then there's you're in an echo chamber. You're just reinforcing incorrect belief systems by seeking out people who are saying the same thing that you believe. So most people aren't finding truth, they're just deepening their own programming, deepening their delusion, reinforcing it, because you just reject everything that goes against your belief system, right? That's how the game works. Self-deceit. Like the undeniable truth of the matter is that you to abide in the thought-free state is to be in a place that is intrinsically can't be false. It can't be false. So you're abiding in truth when you're in the thought-free state. And as soon as you start thinking, well, that everything's up for debate then. And of course, one person left because I'm saying things that they don't want to hear. So just about every single YouTuber out there is trying to appeal to people to get them to look at them, right? To get views. And I don't give a shit, right? I'm not making any money. I've never asked for any money. So I don't change my views to try to get views. I'm not appealing to people. Of course, it's hard to change. It's hard to break out of an addiction, but it's always the best thing to do is to break out of an addiction, because in the long run you're just doubling down on the suffering. All of this suffering needs to get through. You need to pay your karmic debt. You can't just keep doubling down. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. But I have no views. That's the thing, is I'm showing people the state where there are no concepts. So how can I be false? How can I be wrong when I'm sitting here free of thought? That's all I'm showing you, is the place that can't be wrong. And then most likely mind will be like, well, what are you doing? This is boring. Come on, let's do something. And what I'm telling you is that after the boredom, if you get through the boredom, it's complete, perfect peace and contentment. And where can you go from perfect contentment? I mean, eventually you figure out what's substantial and what isn't. So there's your addiction. Obviously, that's an addiction. Yeah, on Salvia, you probably wouldn't even remember that you have a phone. You don't even remember your name here or your history. There's no memory at all. But we know, right? We know. Oh, I shouldn't be looking at the screen so much, because after half an hour of scrolling, you just like kind of pop out of right? You just pop out of your dream, and it's like, oh yeah, where was I? I totally lost awareness of my surroundings, right? The senses, you lose attention of this big world to focus on this tiny little world. That's a redundancy, right? It's something that happened, that was recorded, or something that didn't even happen now, that's just flashing lights on a screen. to divert your attention away from this. That's its only purpose. But you don't have to be, yeah, hopefully you're joining me as best you can in the thought-free state. Yeah, but don't even do music. Why do music? I mean, if you're in a city, I guess. But if you can walk in nature, just walk in nature. No headphones, just the senses. Stay in the five senses, free of thought. Well, you got to stop. Like, well, what are you doing? You're just giving in to your crack addiction. How? You just, I don't know. You just don't give in to the temptation. Just avoid the screen. It's just boredom, isn't it? Like you're not in physical agony. It's just boredom and restlessness and that pull to the freaking. As soon as you see it, as soon as you see this thing or think about it, you feel gravity, right? You feel a pull towards it. That's bad. Resist that pull. Resist that pull. It's not that tough, guys. Like I said, you're not battling demons with flaming swords and stuff, right? It's just keeping your attention in your immediate surroundings. Like when you wake up in the morning, your goal for the day should be silencing the mind. That's the purpose of life, is to kill this fucking parasite. Starve it. Starve it of your attention. So the voice goes away. I laughed at it. It's a shithole. It's a hole of something. So we have to recognize that the vast majority of humanity is in a deep state of delusion, right? So it's just the blind leading the blind. It's everyone's deluded. So there's different levels to meditation, right? So just whatever level you're at just engage in it. Whatever it takes to silence that thought, the thoughts in your head, then engage in that. But music is a creation of the mind, right? The stuff coming through headphones is different, intrinsically different than the stuff in nature. I don't know where you live, but I live in nature. And it's the opposite of what's going on in the headphones, isn't it? There's something different. Tool or angine de Poutine, not poutine. How do I do this? Yeah. So what I'm just suggesting is that to the best of your ability, right? So let's say that you want to get fit. So you start working out. Well, you have to work out. In the best way to get fit is to work out and eat right. So the working out would be meditation, and the eating right would be not eating the garbage, right? So let's say that every time you look at the phone and engage in the screen, you're eating McDonald's. Okay. So let's say you meditate for an hour every day. That's great. That's the workout. But if you just eat McDonald's afterwards, then you're not going to get in as good shape as if you did both. So you have to meditate and then also disengage from the screen. So when you get bored, don't look to be entertained, go back to the stillness. And once a person gets through the boredom, through the restlessness, there's peace on the other side. I can tell you that I've been there. I struggled for a decade, at least a decade, trying to get to that stillness. And then all of a sudden, something flipped and it became effortless to just abide in that stillness. Yeah, see, this is what I mean, right? Is that you've been following me for like years, right? Years now. So I never have any music playing in the car. I am completely always in stillness. And this is what I mean is that you need to, right? You need to do both. The reason why you still have an addiction to your phone is because you play music when you're driving, right? So again, man-made thoughts and everything that thought has created is trying to pull your attention away from the natural state, which is just here, listening to nature, not listening to what man has produced. Why do you drive and listen to Spotify? Why isn't just driving enough? well, well, try it out then. Just get through you have to get through the boredom. If you don't get through the boredom, if you give in to it every time it pops up, you'll never get past it to find what I'm showing you sitting here in my state of this silly little grin on my face. Right? So that's what I'm trying to show you guys when I'm sitting here is that there's nothing going on in here and I'm happy. Just perfect contentment. Productive, what are you producing? I get it. I understand. But I'm trying to show you there's another way. And it's not that bizarre. It's not something wacky or woo or anything. It's just being here. It's just not engaging mind, but just being in the five senses. But why are you listening to the podcast? To learn something? Do you know why you're listening to the podcast? It's because Maya wants to divert your attention away from self. That's it. But yeah, yeah, learn something. I've learned all there is to learn. And at the end of it all, what you learn is that the learning was all bullshit. After you transcend thought, right, you come to the conclusion of what language and thought is, then you realize, it's the transcendence of thought itself. That's what this is all leading to, because you realize that thought, what it is. Look at where it's taken us, right? Humanity operates on thought. We follow the voice in the head, and look at where we are because of it. It's this simple. We just have to be honest with ourselves as a species, where we are and how we got here. But we don't like to be honest. Humans can self-deceive better than anyone, better than animals for sure. So yeah, like you're not learning anything by tuning in here. Not anything new. This is destroying everything you've learned. Oh, there's my eagle. The bald eagle. No, eagle, not eagle. Yes, but it's the belief that transcends you to the state where there are no beliefs, right? So I get it, because everyone believes that thought is the final authority. So they always take it back to thought. Oh, well, that's just a thought. Well, those are just beliefs. The belief to have no beliefs is just a belief. But what I'm saying is, I abide in the place that is beyond beliefs. So I'm leading you to the place that has no beliefs. And then when mind comes in after that, it tries to explain that state with words again. See what I mean, right? Is that I'm pointing to the experience of thought-free state. And then when you come out of that state, and then mind wants to say something about it, you see what I mean, right? Is yes, you can always, if you think that thought is the final authority, you will always say, well, that's just a belief, right? The belief that you transcend beliefs is just another belief. But once you transcend the beliefs, there are no more beliefs. You see what I mean? You have to transcend it. Otherwise, it's turtles all the way, right? So you have to transcend the whole process and assume or find out that the thought-free state actually is the natural state. Right? When you find out that the thought-free state is the natural state, all of nature is operating devoid of thought, devoid of that voice, then you realize that that is actually the natural state. I don't know what that means. But timeless, yes. There's no thoughts, there's no time. Okay, so why? Here's the big why. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why do we watch a movie? Why do we play a game? To seek entertainment. Yes. So all of this is entertainment, is God's entertainment. So that's the why. You can't ask, why do we play a game? At some point, it has to become self-evident that it's just entertainment. Oh, that timeless. Oh yeah, timeless. So the way I put it, the way non-conceptuality puts it, is the purpose of life is for entertainment. Okay, that's the purpose of all of this. It's just God having fun, basically. And so the purpose is entertainment, and the goal of the game, right? Every game has a goal. It has rules and goals and points, which we need numbers for and stuff. But the goal of the game is to find conclusion of the game. This is what makes it tricky. It's like a puzzle, right? Where this is a mystery, right? That's why they're seeking, is because it's a mystery or a labyrinth. It's a puzzle, right? So God can create a system, a puzzle where it itself can pretend to get lost and have fun and play. So I'm basically showing the way out of the game. You can't beat the game. If you think the game is to get more points, then you're trapped in the labyrinth again. So the point of the game is to find conclusion of the game. Like a puzzle or a mystery or a labyrinth. And the way out of the labyrinth is by paying attention to the thought-free state. I can't get it any more succinct and direct teaching than that is the thought-free state. The space between thoughts is the exit from the labyrinth. Space between thoughts. Thought following thought equals building more walls of the labyrinth. So it's just entertainment all the way. What exactly is nirvana and moksha then? What are those words referring to? It can't be mystery all the way, right? Mystery all the way is delusion. If you're searching for something that can never be found, well, then isn't that samsara? Does it make sense to try to keep living when obviously everything that is alive, everything that arises passes, right? That's obvious. If you actually look at what's going on, everything that arises passes. So does it make sense to try to live forever in this body, to try to keep this body alive forever? Does that make any sense? To go against everything that nature does? Does that make any sense? Yeah, I agree. Then people need to stop bitching about when they're suffering then. If you're going to play the game, I have no problem with people say, yeah, okay, I'm going to play the game. Okay, then you have to take the good with the bad, the highs with the lows with the highs, right? So yeah, but the problem is that quite often people will say what you're saying and then they'll just whine and bitch when they're suffering. It's like, well, So yeah, okay, but accept the suffering when it comes. It's like, okay, I'm playing the game and this is it, right? Like, you can't play the game and not suffer. That's suffering is inherent within playing the game because every single experience is fundamentally unsubstantial, right? Like playing a game. It's fun, but there's no purpose to it. It's unsubstantial. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to conclude the game too. Correct. There's nothing wrong. If I agree with you, so you have to agree with me then, right? Is that there's nothing wrong with wanting to conclude the game too. But everyone wants to defend playing the game, and very few want to defend or take the position of concluding the game. Like that's what moksha is, right? That's what moksha is. That's what nirvana is. That's what heaven is, even though they don't know it, because they think heaven is some physical place that's perfect, like the earth before we fuck things up. But it's not another state. It's not another experience. It's basically dreamless sleep. That is the closest you can get to understanding what the reality actually is. But like you're not bored while you're sleeping, right? You're completely at peace and healing, right? That's when the healing takes place. The re-energizing takes place in sleep. Well, why? It's because it's basically the fundamental state where there is no consciousness, right? There's just awareness. There's no awareness of things. There's just the awareness, right? There's no world, there's no thoughts, there's no time, there's no experience in dreamless sleep. And that's where we're all unified, right? That's the invariable frame of reference upon which the waking state arises and passes. So the division should be waking state and dream and sleep. Right? The division shouldn't really be day and the reality is dreamless sleep. It's the frame of reference upon which the entire waking state occurs. Yeah, okay. When I say consciousness, when I say consciousness, to me, that's awareness of something. It's basically awareness is fundamental reality, and consciousness is just awareness of something. So in my model, you can have awareness without there being something there, but the thing that's there needs the awareness. Okay, so the sleep state could be also the death state, right? It's just another relative form of the same state. So here's the thing: is right. I play, seek entertainment, and then meditate when suffering arises. I get it, but why don't you just skip the whole process so that suffering doesn't arise? Right. So it's a preemptive strike. If there's suffering, then that's showing you that you're not on the right path. The path of truth, the guide that keeps us on the path of truth is suffering and happiness, not true and false. So if you're suffering, that's a guide that's showing you that there's something askew. Like if you were in that meditative state the whole time, the suffering never would have arose in the first place. You see? All right. I'm going to call her for this week, and I'm going to keep doing this because it's fun. And so look at everything through the fundamental model of reality. And let's not take this too seriously. Let's have fun. All right. Thanks for dropping by, and maybe we'll see you next weekend. Hold to the practice.